Carter and Christian are here for Beyond 90 and the Florida Soccer Report. It is the 50th anniversary of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary at the match I was at Saturday at Al Lang Stadium. And all season long, the club is going to be doing 50th anniversary stuff. And so we're going to start a series here at the Florida Soccer Report and Beyond the 90 about the 50th anniversary of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, because it was the most significant development in the sport of soccer here in the state of Florida. 1975, the foundation of the Rowdies. Yes, we had a professional team in Miami, the Miami Toros / Miami Gatos. They never penetrated anything in terms of public opinion, recognition, developing youth soccer. They didn't do any of that. Now, when the club moved to Fort Lauderdale in 1977, they did. Then we the 20-mile trek north on Interstate 95 to Fort Lauderdale. And obviously, I'm a big part of that history, Fort Lauderdale Strikers history. I was a ball boy, 81, 82, 83. I was playing youth soccer, kept playing soccer after that. And then the second iteration of the Strikers, I was a fixture in the stands. Third iteration of Strikers, I wasn't around for. Fourth iteration of Strikers, I helped relaunch the club and worked for the club. So obviously, I'm very tied into that history. But I think the entire history of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers is tied to the success of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And the Tampa Bay Rowdies in 1975, not only winning an NASL championship, but winning over a new market that had not had professional sports before. And the sort of attendances we saw for the Rowdies really peaking from 1978 to 1982. 78 and 70, 77, 75, they win the title. 76, great team. 77, they really are a team that gives the Cosmos all they can handle until Eddie Firmani, goes from Tampa Bay to New York, crosses that divide, which was a divide. That was the rivalry. 78, 79, crowds were off the charts. That helped build the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. And at the same time, because of the Rowdies, 78, 79, really, I think particularly that period, 77, 78, 79, 80, you got a whole generation of young people playing the sport in this state. And the Strikers-Rowdies rivalry had a huge impact on me in getting me to play. And creating a whole ecosystem of youth soccer. And then those two clubs, Fort Lauderdale and Tampa Bay, continued to develop that. We didn't have youth academies. We didn't have the sort of infrastructure. We didn't have any infrastructure in the country in the early 1980s. And part of the reason why the NASL's collapse caught me off guard, I knew, obviously, my family, we hung signs of protest and everything at the last Strikers game at Lockhart in 1983, the playoff loss to Tulsa, because we knew the club was potentially moving to Minnesota because of indoor soccer, which was something that I kind of accepted at the time. I look back on it and say, my gosh, how did I watch that stuff? The Rowdies were good in indoor too, right? The Strikers didn't have a venue indoor in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, which was part of West Palm Beach area also. They played a little bit of indoor actually in Palm Beach, which was part of the reason the move to Minnesota happened. But then there was a second Strikers in the APSL in 88 that from 88 to 90 was probably the best professional club in the country. I would argue they were. That was a time between NASL and MLS, so they were the best professional club in the country, but they were in what was a sanctioned second division, not a first division. There was no first division in the country. Back to the Rowdies. So the Rowdies were so successful and so popular, even when they weren't playing well in 82, 83, that they continued to maintain a fan base. 1985 comes, the NASL collapses, but the Rowdies survive. So not all the teams in NASL folded, by the way. The Rowdies survived. And they played until the early 90s. Perry Vanderbeck, who had been a great player for them, became a coach for that second, well, it's not second, it's still the first Rowdies, just playing in other leagues, including the APSL. The rivalry with Fort Lauderdale was revived in the APSL, and those matches tended to have higher attendances than any other matches for Fort Lauderdale and for Tampa Bay when they played each other. And Ricky Hill coached that team, would later win an NASL title in 2012 with the revived Rowdies, and then Rodney Marsh coached that team for a little bit. So all the legends of the Rowdies were part of that. And 2010, this is 2010. This is the revival. This is the kind of kid. The team comes back, and by 2012 they win an NASL title under Ricky Hill, as mentioned. We'll talk about that in another video, right? I lived that. I was part of that. I was there that night they won in 2012. I was in those days very close with Coach Hill, actually, who was our NASL Coach of the Year, and was a huge fan of his methods. I have to say, I think he was the right man for the right time for that time in our league, not just at Tampa Bay, but in our league. He understood football in a way that a lot of people didn't in the second division of American soccer. And then that club, that team, Mike Ambersley, Luke Mulholland, two of my favorite players from my NASL days, were on that team. And of course, Yamada was, the legend of that era of the Rowdies before Georgie Ristoff, Leo Fernandez kind of took that mantle. So we'll have much more on the 50th anniversary of the Rowdies in the next several months here on Beyond the 90 and the Florida Soccer Report. But Saturday really was a special night for me because of that. And again, I've always been a fan or worked for rival clubs. Grew up with strikers. I still have this sitting right in front of me. It's always on my desk, right? Grew up strikers. I'm a striker. Eventually, strikers go away. I switched to Miami FC. I work for Miami FC. Have worked for Miami FC a couple different times. That is my club. That's the club I support. But there's just something about the Rowdies. They are responsible for soccer in Florida. So if people in Orlando think they somehow magically made soccer what it is in Florida because of Orlando City, no, they didn't. If people who are associated with Inter Miami think they somehow magically made soccer what it is in Florida, no, they didn't. It was the Rowdies. And it will always be the Rowdies.